Okay, I think we may as well make a start. We are up to about, what are we up to? 20 odd people. So, and I am recording this meeting as I am obliged to tell you, by all accounts. So, yeah, so Liane is going to talk to us about Floorplanner, give us a kind of overview of how it works, a little demo. I think this is really, really important and a really good tool for us to kind of get ahead of the competition. So I'll just hand over to her. So you take it away, Liane.
Thank you, Kevin. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you all again, or meet you if I've not met you before. If anyone who has met me knows how passionate I am about floor plans, so I'm with you today. Normally, I do a session face-to-face in person, so it is a practical discipline, a bit like photography. It's always better if we're working in the environment, hand planning, measuring, and then digitizing. However, I have got a really comprehensive manual that I've written for Floorplanner, and we will be going through some of the basics on the presentation today. So hopefully at the end of this session, you'll feel that you'll be confident in going away, hand planning a property, how to measure it up, draw it, and then how to digitize it on the Floorplanner software afterwards. So I will start by sharing my screen and getting the slideshow going. What I'll be doing is I'll be presenting it on a presentation, and then halfway through I'll be dipping out and actually going into the Floorplanner software. So you'll be able to actually work with me in Floorplanner. So if everyone has their logins and things, we can work on that. If not, afterwards, ask IT for your login, and then you can go through what I'll be demoing. In my presentation at the end, I have also put in a step-by-step instruction. So everything I'll show you on Floorplanner, there is a written guide. So don't feel you have to take notes. I will share it with you. So can everyone see my presentation screen? Is that shared? No, that's okay.
Yes.
So let me just double check. There we go. Good. So you've got my floor planning training, the basics. Is that showing?
Yes.
Wonderful. What I'll do is I'll turn my camera off because you don't need to see me staring at my screen whilst I'm presenting. So I'll just move that out of the way. There we go. So Floorplanner. What we're working with is, why is it so important? It's a real fundamental for me. I feel it should be on every advert. It's something that buyers will always ask. Probably one of the biggest questions you have as soon as you launch a property is, have you got more photographs? Have you got a floor plan? So it's about being able to facilitate the buyer request and actually say, yes, I do. For a seller, it will be really helpful at mandating stage. It can become one of your USPs that you're able to provide a floor plan for the property. We have the ability to do 2D and 3D, so I'll show you both of those during this presentation and how simple it is to do. And then at the end of the presentation, you can then decide how often you want to include floor plans, whether you want to use it just for exclusives, whether you want to hand draw every property. So if someone does put that request in, you have the ability to create one when you're back at home, or you might decide to add it to every piece of marketing that you've got. So as an agent, you're in control of how you want to use this software and this skill, essentially. So in different regions, it varies. You might be comfortable using it with exclusives. You might think, I want to keep it with me. And then if a buyer on a mandat sampler or multi-agency requests that information, you can then choose to send it by email. And just on your advert state, you have a floor plan available at request to capture that lead coming in. So a big part of sort of hand planning really is starting to look at the property as a whole. A lot of it is sort of a visual recce. So it's really important to look at the footprint of the building. Google Earth is extremely helpful for that. As you can see, we've got curved shapes. You have unusual interrelationships between buildings. So taking a really sort of holistic view of the property and the surrounding buildings is important. France, more than anywhere else, when you walk into a home, they can be unusual shapes, unusual sizes. The rooms can be different angles. So starting to actually check Google Earth and look at the footprint, spend a bit of time walking around the property. You'll be doing, whilst you're taking photographs, you'll be using this time anyway to look at the building. So this is just a small extra part of the task of taking on a property. So you will already be there taking photographs. This won't take any extra time. So check where any external windows are there any doors in unusual places, and things like that. And also check the orientation so you know where north is. That's very important for buyers, because they like to know orientation of the garden, which rooms have southern light, western light, whatever it might be. So always do a footprint recce. It's always good to look on the ground and think about problem solving before you even start drawing the property. So if there's multiple buildings, you might want to look at the relationships. So we can see here we've got a single level. There's an overhang, a covered porch, so I can see instantly the floor plan on the second level of this will be larger than the ground level. You've then got another building in the background and then another adjacent building. So start to think about how the relationships between these properties work, and how you will then create that in terms of a floor plan. Take lots of photographs. You'll be doing this anyway. Reference material is key. There's been multiple times I've gone back home or to the office to draw up a floor plan and completely forgotten where things are. So photographs will really help you during this process. And then just check for any unusual features, and also any features that you think might be a sort of selling point as well, because you want to make sure we include all the really interesting factors onto the floor plan as well. After we've done our external recce, we want to go inside and really take time just to walk around the property and look. You will be doing this anyway. So again, this isn't additional time on your normal listing process. So start thinking about the space in a different way. You're taking a 3-dimensional area and creating a 2-dimensional plan from it. So think about mezzanine floors, think about where windows are, staircases, take lots of photographs as well. And if there are any unique features such as fireplaces, period features that you might want to include, make sure you start thinking about where you're going to note those down on your hand-drawn plan as well. So when it comes to hand planning, you'll need a laser measure set to meters, blank sheet of paper for each floor to keep it really clear, and pen and a pencil. Some agents, some of you might already be hand planning or sketching as you go around a property anyway. Some people won't have done it before. So what I would definitely recommend is, if you're not confident, start practicing on your own home. That's the best place to start. And then hand draw perhaps one floor of it, and then you can practice digitizing that on the software after. So when it comes to doing it at a client's property, you're going to feel a lot more comfortable having practiced. So when it comes to setting up your drawn plan, it's one piece of paper per floor. Make sure you're comfortable with the symbols that represent doors and windows. So for instance, in this sketch plan, you can see the straight line for the door, and then you have a crescent, which denotes the swing of the door. So that's a very important feature to record. People like to know when they're entering a room, are they opening the door to the left, to the right? It will determine where furniture can be positioned and things like that. So it really indicates the flow of a property. And then you can see where the little crosses are and straight lines. That's where how we record a window. What we can also see in this sketch plan is there's, you can see the bathroom, and then you can see a little kitchenette. So as standard, I would always include the cooker, sink, and then any sort of toilet, basin, shower or bath. The reason being, a buyer likes to know where the water outlets are, where the services are, and it just adds that level of detail to the plan, which is quite important for a lot of buyers. So the accuracy of the hand-drawn plan doesn't matter. So it don't need to draw it to scale. What's important is taking the measurements in the correct points and then noting the measurements on the drawn plan. So as long as the measurements are correct, when you come to digitizing it, the plan will come out correct. So don't worry too much if your sketch plan isn't particularly neat and isn't to scale. So when it comes to hand planning and measuring up, start by understanding the outline and the footprint of the building. So hopefully it's rectangle, but it could be anything. So understand the outline and sketch that onto your plan using a Google Earth if you need to, and then just check whether the following levels of the building are all the same. Is the top floor a little bit bigger? Is it smaller? Is it a mezzanine floor? Or do you have 2 or 3 floors that are just following the same footprint? Best thing to do is mark where the front door is on the property. So when you enter a property, you're going to be probably stood in the hallway, or you could be stood in a living room. So mark where the front door is, and then start using that as a fixed point of reference as you work around the floor of a property. So work room by room. I would always tend to start with the largest room that had the most obvious relationship with another large room. So often this will be the living room leading through to a kitchen. Normally that might cover the whole length of one of the floors. So depending on the type of property, start with the largest room that has the easiest fixed point to measure from, and then be accurate with the measurements. So we want to know the meterage. You'll be doing this anyway because you'll be calculating the square meterage. So again, this isn't any additional work. All you're doing is adding a sketch at the same time. So to give you an example of a digitized floor plan, you can see the entry hallway, the main door leads through to the kitchen on the left, the bathroom on the right, and you can see the main living room and bedroom. So the relationships between the different rooms are important. People like to understand the flow, particularly with international buyers. You might find them thinking about renovations they might be able to do. Can they take certain walls down, etc. And then you can see the digitized version of the kitchen and bathroom utilities as well. And then the final thing is just obviously check the door and window locations and the angle and the swing of the door. If there are stairs, it's also important to note the angle and direction of tread. So are you walking up with a turn on the staircase? Is it a direct run? Because again, this is really helpful information for a potential buyer. So in terms of this floor plan that I measured up, it was fortunately quite a simple rectangular house. In the kitchen, there were stairs up to the attic, which had been converted. So it's a smaller floor space because we're working with the ceiling height. So it won't be exact, but you can see side by side the 2 floors. I started at the main entrance hall. For me, I went straight to the living room. It was the largest room. It took that entire quarter of the house. So by getting those measurements and then the walk through into the kitchen, that was half the house measured just in 2 rooms. I would then come down, lead on from the kitchen, take the bedroom measurement down here, straight to the other bedroom, and then you're finally left with the hallway space and the bathroom and toilet in the hallway. And because we then had the outer main rooms measured, the smaller space kind of created itself, and it was then easy just to measure the bathroom and the toilet and add them in, leaving the void space, which then created the hall. So often if there's unusual hall or landing spaces, by completing the larger external rooms first, you will create that smaller unusual internal space automatically. So that's quite a good tip and how to get around unusual spaces. I would then go up the stairs, measure up to the room to the right, because that was the whole side of that part of the attic, and then it was a slightly more complicated setup on the left hand side. So again, I measured the bedroom and then the bathroom and the kitchen. So leading on to our software, Floorplanner is free to use. It doesn't matter how many people are signed up to it. If you create single plan levels, they're completely free. If you choose to create plans with more than one level or 3D, they cost 2 credits, but we do have lots of credits. So think carefully about which ones you do want to create a more in-depth plan for. But the majority of the plans that we do create are free, which is excellent. IT can give you a login, so just email it@leggett.fr and they will provide your floor planner login. You can set up a login separately with your personal email, but you won't receive as many features as you do through the Leggett account. So Make sure it's part of your standard marketing if you choose to. I think it sets you aside from the competition. And ultimately, by providing a buyer more information at viewing stage or pre-viewing stage, you will essentially save time and your money in petrol rather than showing around properties to buyers that it isn't suitable. They'll be able to shortlist and decide whether it is suitable for them. A way to sell this into the seller is, yes, we might have fewer buyers coming to view the property because we're giving them this information, but it does mean the ones that we do show are more likely to put an offer in at the property. So floor plan training, in this module, I'm going to show you how to format the settings. So Floorplanner is excellent software. It's some of the best software that I've worked with in floor plans. It's different from the software I used in the UK, and it's much more comprehensive, almost to a point that there are so many features. I've stripped out some of the unnecessary detail to make it as simple as possible for everyone. I'll show you how to draw a room to exact measurement, how to add doors and windows, and then how to finalize the plan with measurements and description, and then how to add on the rooms so you piece by piece build the complete plan. So if you haven't been on Floorplanner before, this is what it looks like. So you can log in. So you request your login from IT. It will always be your Leggett email. When you're setting up Floorplanner, we'll open it up in a moment and I'll show you the dashboard. So it's really simple to navigate. You open the program, it will present you with the dashboard. The system auto saves, so no matter what you're working on, it will save your projects as you go along, which is really good. All your plans will be stored in there, and then you can create a new plan by clicking Create Project icon, which is this big blue plus sign, and it will open up information to fill out, so you can then label and name your project. On my presentation, through the manual section, I have also got everything in French as well for anyone who needs that. So when you create a new project, you come into this option. So you have empty plan, upload image, or room wizard. We always start with an empty plan. It is possible to upload an image. So if you have an architect rendering or you have a diagnostic plan that you would like to trace, you can upload it in the background as an image and essentially trace that. So it's really, really good for copying, sometimes even other agents' floor plans. If you want to copy it to remove the watermark, you can. Normally, we will start with the empty plan option. This is then opens the information box. Create new project, name the project however you want. You might want to use the Hestia code. You might want to use the address. The code probably is the most secure way of labeling it. And in this top right hand corner here, we have the default brand. So if you set the default brand to Andrew Morgan, he's bagged it, it does add the Leggett watermark onto the plan as well. So that's incredibly helpful. So at this stage, I will pop out and we will go to my floor planner here. Can everyone see my dashboard? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you. So this is my dashboard.
Liane, just a question.
Yes. How can I help? Oh, did you have a question?
Yeah, sorry, it's Knuckle. I didn't even get to this stage because I got the floor planner access from IT, and when I tried to use the Andrew Morgan template, it was saying it just wasn't available or couldn't be downloaded.
Okay, I will double check that and see whether IT have changed the logo at all. So did you just go ahead without the default branding and no branding at all to go into it, or did you stop at that point?
No, I couldn't go any further. I tried one of the other things. For every item, it said it couldn't download anything. I never got to this dashboard stage.
Okay. What I can certainly do is, if we have a little look at that later, I'll can see if I can troubleshoot for you. It should all be working quite simply and just be able to click through. There shouldn't be anything to download. It's just working off a live tab. So maybe there's a connection issue. But I'm more than happy to spend a bit of time with you after this, and we can have a little look if you want. That's no problem.
Sure. Okay.
Actually, Liane, Trina's saying that she's got the same thing. She can't see the Andrew Morgan drop down, so I think there might be an issue with it. So.
Okay, let's have a quick look. So Okay, so if I click into my create project, I do have that option.
I see it as well, Willem here.
No, I do see it, Liane, but there's nothing that happens when I click on it. It just says it doesn't download.
Okay, that's fine. I will check because it has always worked in the past. So let me double check the settings for that. It was created, I'm not sure by who. It just has the default branding under that. So if you click default branding, are you able to open a project?
No, none of them. Or even when I try to open a project, it doesn't give me any options to do anything.
Interesting. What would be good maybe if we can share screens later and I can have a little look for you.
Sure.
And just see. Okay. So on the main dashboard, we have everything that we need. What I would say is you need additional training. The Floorplanner training itself is excellent. They have a really good YouTube channel. So on the right hand side here, you will see webinars that they do directly. They always show their new releases of new information, new features, and their YouTube channel has from the basics upwards on how to use Floorplanner. So that's a great option that's just here on the right if you need it. What we also have is your account settings. So if you did want to change anything, on this top 4 squares is the dashboard. You can go to account settings. So here, for instance, you can change the language, make sure it's in meters, not feet, etc. So if you'd rather have the system in French, you can or Dutch, you can change the language here. So that's quite helpful. If you ever need to get back to the main page, you can click this button or this one, and then the one underneath shows all of your projects. So here are the thumbnails of different things that I've worked on. But when you open the application, you should hopefully be coming in on this page. So I would click create new project. We'll just start with Sonship team test. I'm going to see if it works for me with Andrew, and if it doesn't, it should just automatically come to this screen, and we're going to do empty plan, and then it opens up this piece of graph paper essentially. So the best way to think about Floorplanner is that you're sitting at your desk with a pen and pencil and a piece of graph paper in front of you. So the best thing to remember is this is a drawing software, so it is quite sensitive. So every time you move the mouse, you place a click, you will probably be doing something within the system. So just make sure all of your actions are quite considered, and you're happy drawing. So at the minute, my mouse is just freely moving. First things I tend to do is I will always put it onto a black and white plan, which is this button up here. The reason being we want to draw in black and white. Personally, I prefer my 2-dimensional plans to be in black and white. The reason being they're easier for buyers to print. They're easier for buyers to see on their phones, on the website. It's cheaper for you to print rather than printing pages of color. So black and white, it's just cleaner and easier. Make sure the measurements are in meters, which they are. And the first thing that I also do is I go to the dimensions box here. So on the left-hand blue toolbar are basically all the features you need. You have your tools, which are building. So when you're creating a room, drawing a wall, placing doors, placing windows, then you have your information box, which is your information. So placing labels and text, drawing dimensions. So they're the 2 main features that you'll be using. So under the information box, I always go to draw dimension and I remove automatic dimension lines. If you keep those on, every time you draw a line, it adds lots of numbers to the page and it becomes really confusing. So I'll demonstrate really quickly with it on and why we turn it off. So I've turned them back on. I'm going to draw a room. And as you can see, it adds lots of lines. So it's measuring the inside line and the external line on all walls. So this then gets very complicated if you're trying to draw lots of different rooms. So if I click back, I remove that. So when I'm drawing and creating, I turn the dimensions off. So then when I come to draw a room, so you simply go back to the toolbar, click draw a room. You have the option to change the wall thickness here. So if you've got a big external wall that's 300 mil, or you've got an internal divide that's 150, you can change the wall size. To keep it really simple, I wouldn't necessarily go into that much detail at the beginning. If you then become confident, you can then start becoming a little bit more precise. I personally would just do a single simple line. We have a crosshair here, so this crosshair will always bring you back to the page. So when you press this bullseye, it will bring you back here. So if you get lost on the graph paper, because the graph paper is infinite, so if you can't find where you are, if you click this, it will bring you back to this cross point. So by clicking Draw Room, you can see my mouse automatically turns to a crosshair itself, which means it's ready to start drawing. It's just a left click, and then I just open the square to create the room. As you can see, there aren't the automatic lines now. It's drawn its first room. When you hover your mouse over any of the walls or any of the corners, it means that you can then start moving them. So if we wanted to create a room that was, say, 7 meters by 4, I'm looking at the internal wall measurements moving as I change that wall. So now we can see I've created internal wall of 7 meters, 1 centimeter. So it's a little bit too big. And now I want to create the other wall at 4 meters, for instance. So I'm just bringing that measurement in to as close to 4 meters as I can get it. That is, oh, bang on, wonderful. So 4 meters internally. Only think of internal measurements because we're standing inside taking measurements. We're not thinking about external. So that's your basic room already in place. If we want to add features or anything else, we have doors. So under the door section, you can see we've got a whole myriad of doors, double doors, French doors, garage doors. We've got archways, curved archways, revolving doors, whatever you might like, we have. For doors, I would always use the most simple basic one as it turns to a 2D drawing when we just drag and drop it. So all you do is just drag the icon over and then drop it onto a wall. So it will automatically attach itself to a wall. When we have the door, it's possible to click where it meets the wall and it will bring up options. So you can change the swing of it, the hinge side, so that's where it's important when we've recorded that when hand drawing, or if you really want to and you have lots of doors, you can duplicate it and just keep adding them. So there's some really good features, and that's how simple it is. So if you ever want to pick it up and move it, you can. If you decide you've got too many doors, you can simply delete it. So that's how you add doors to a room. So we'll leave it with one door. I'll take that off. The next feature will be the windows. So again, go for the first window. At the bottom here, you've got the option to make them 2D or 3D. I keep them in 3D just so that I can see, but as you can see, it just turns into a 2D window when we drag and drop it. So it's just a left click, drag and drop, and then you've got different shaped windows here as well with the different 2D features. So we've added some windows to our room. So that's doors and windows. If you then wanted to create more rooms, so for instance, on that initial plan, we had the living room and then we had a kitchen coming off here. You're very much now just recreating what you've already drawn. So as long as you're comfortable and you've captured the hand drawing quite well, this section actually doesn't take very long to recreate. So you can move the graph paper by just clicking on it and moving it around. And I'm going to add a kitchen by just again clicking draw room and then adding another box. You can then just move the walls, make sure, let's say it's a 3x7 kitchen. So I'm just going to move that to as close as I can get it. It doesn't matter if you're not perfect. And then you can simply keep adding, let's maybe do an archway through. So we can see that's a walk through without a door. And you just simply keep adding the rooms until you create space that you need. So this is almost a copy of the plan that I did before, and then you see the hallway is left with a bit of room. Once you've got all of your rooms, that's how quick it is to create one single level. You can move the walls around, so if you haven't quite got the dimensions right, you can move them around. You can create L shapes by simply moving the walls. If you really want to, and there's unusual shaped walls, you can also use the corner points. So by clicking and dragging the corner points, you can move them in. So maybe you have a diagonal wall. And also, if you click on the wall itself, you will always have settings. So you've got the ability to change the thicknesses if you wanted. But what's quite nice is this feature here means you can create a curve. So I've clicked on it once, and now I'm just moving my mouse, and you can create curved walls as well. But for the fundamentals, that really should be enough to capture most properties. So in addition to
Liane, can I ask
yes,
something, please?
of course, yes.
I'm trying to follow what you're doing as I create an account and it works. It doesn't really. Is there any constraints in browsers that we should use or anything?
There shouldn't be. I use Chrome. What are you?
Chrome.
Are you fine? Is it? Is it struggling to
Well, for
load
example,
or?
I'm still at the very start trying to move walls around. It doesn't. Indeed, it's just a matter of clicking and then dragging. So it doesn't seem to do that at all. I can select
Okay.
it, but that is
So
it.
are you trying to sort of, are you hovering over it so it's blue and then
Yeah.
left clicking and then, oh, that won't move because it's on a curved wall. Let's try it. So you're
I
just
click left. I try to drag as I usually would with files or anything else. It just stays. It shows the icons to delete it, to the curve or to the anything. But I
Okay, so
can't
if
move
the
anything.
icons are up, then it's not in a drawing mode, it's in an editing mode. So if it's
Oh.
showing like that, it won't drag. What you have to do is just hover over it and then just grab it whilst it's like this and move it. If you click on it, it will bring this up and that's in an editing mode.
Okay. Okay.
So
So it was really the yeah. Okay. So it's
you
just
got it?
okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Perfect. Excellent. No, that's fine. And I do please take any opportunity to ask me anything because I've fiddled with this quite a lot. So if you're getting
Thank you.
stuck somewhere, hopefully I can help you. I know it's a bit of a whiz tour, but it's been recorded and I do have the manual. So lots of material for you to look back on. So hopefully this is enough and you can see it took a couple of minutes. So the beauty of floor plans, you're already at the house, you're already hand planning, you're already measuring to get square meterage. Doing a quick sketch doesn't take any extra time really. So when you're back in the office, once you're happy and confident with this software, we're talking maybe 15, 20 minutes to put together a floor plan. So now we have this weird and wonderful shape. What I would like to do is add some more doors because we want to make sure we can get into all the rooms. So I'm going to make this like that. And then I'm just going to add a few more, not that I'm OCD, but I don't like it if it doesn't look like a proper floor plan. And then maybe let's do some nice double sliding doors. There we go. So you've got the fundamentals. I've just clicked out by accident, but what we can see is it's automatically saved. So now I'm going to go back into it. So if at any point you lose connection or you click out, the project does auto save. So don't worry about that. And then let's just put a few windows in. Sorry, there we go. Perfect. So now we have the fundamentals of a property. That would be the front door. So adding detail information. So there's two ways of doing it. I prefer place label because you can start using 2, 3, however many languages you want. If you click on it, it will instantly open a text box in a random place. So make sure you're looking because it will go somewhere strange. So you have to then find it. So we can see it sitting in the living room. So I'm going to put living room and then you can put salon as well, whatever it might be. If you click off it, you can then pick it up, hopefully. Oh dear. So it's a little bit fiddly sometimes. You can pick it up and then move it. Then let's say, for instance, I want to add another one. I simply click on it again. This time it's popped up down there. I'm going to put bedroom, whatever it might be, and then click. And then I'm going to pick that up and then just move it. So it's really easy just to add labels in however many languages you would like. And we can put that in here. So that's how you label the rooms. It's simply place label. I will show you this one. If it's a very simple plan and there aren't more than one bedroom, there isn't more than one bedroom, this can also be a really good option. So in room type, you can simply drag and drop the name. But what it also does is it calculates the square meterage for you. So your digitized version has to be accurate for it to create the square meterage, but you can use this as a really quick way of calculating. So we see it's 12 square meters in this area. So you have these room labels. I personally prefer label because you can then put different languages in. Symbols are quite important. At the very least, I'd probably put a north arrow in because people like to know where to put the breakfast room, etc. But you do have other options. It's got symbols for the boiler, electrical points. You can get very, very in depth. So you don't necessarily need all of these, but that's where you can find the north arrow. And then you've got draw dimension, which is very important. So this is where we put back in our dimensions. So just by clicking on it, so before this was toggled on, we're not touching that. As you move over, it becomes a crosshair, and you can simply left click, open it, and then left click again, and it will just open up a dimension line for you. So you can just go across all the areas that you want to have delineated. For instance, you might, so I've just clicked out it there. So again, draw dimension, just one click and then one click. And that allows you to put in the space that you want. Don't have to measure toilets if you don't want to, but if it's a particularly large bathroom, you might. So now we've got our labels and our measurements. As you can see, this measurement is coming over the writing. So I'm just going to move that so it's neat. So the next thing is I can see that this is 3.01 meters. I want it to be 3. How do we change the number? We double click on it, and you can see it opens up the option to change the number. So I'm going to make that 300. And then you always click the middle button, because that means the arrows will equal on each side rather than shift to the left or to the right. So I'm going to equalize it, and now it's reading as 3 meters. So that's just quite a nice way to neaten up a plan. And if you haven't drawn it correctly completely to the centimeter, you can make sure the measurements still read the correct figures if you want them to. Again, if you want to click on it and delete the line, you can simply do that as well. So the system is really, really good in a way that the functions itself are quite simple. Anything you click on, you open up options, you have settings. Any item you click on, again, you open up options and settings. So it's a very simple piece of software to use. What we also have the option of is we've drawn mostly in boxes. If you have a room or if you're tracing, so I will show you how to trace quickly after this, you can simply draw a wall on its own. This wall will go off a bit randomly. It essentially is a wall that's stuck to your mouse point. So if I click once down there and start drawing, and then click again and again, you can start drawing irregular shapes. So as in France, often the buildings are unusual shapes. You can draw irregular shapes just by using the draw wall feature, and then you can finish it there. So that's quite a helpful one as well. If we look at placing structurals, so if we're going into a little more detail, this for me is a super basic plan. You've got your room layouts, you've got the labels, you've got your measurements. For me, this is fine to go to market if you're happy with that. If you want to go a bit more in depth, we have place structurals. So again, everything under this toolbar section, you're building. So this is where you get jazzy things like your fireplace, perhaps, or you might have your staircase. So depending on the size, tread, shape of your staircase, the options in here. Again, you can switch it to 2D. For staircases, that's a little bit easier to see sometimes. So perhaps we have, blimey, that's a massive staircase. I'm just going to make that, I'll show you how to make that smaller in a second. So I'm just going to place some random structurals just to create a little bit more interest. You can see we've got Velux windows, you've got balconies, you've got pillars. Skylights are quite a common one perhaps to use, so I often put skylights in. So there's a whole range of things here, and you can really go down a rabbit hole of how much detail you want to put in. Oh, let's put balcony in maybe. We'll put balcony off the bedroom. There we go. And as you can see, the features have come up in grey. So I just click again, the black and white, to simplify that. So again, with all the other features, click on the feature and it will bring up the range of options. So you can change the orientation of staircases. You can flip them, invert them, delete them. This is quite useful. So this will bring up the size. So maybe you want to make them a little bit smaller, whatever it might be. So it just allows you to tailor it really to the plan that you need. So just make sure that you're happy with how everything is presenting. I might move it here so it's a little bit clearer. There we go. And then you can just drag and drop and move things around. So that's your structural. So take time to have a look. You'll end up picking 2 or 3 things that you use regularly. So just stick with those. We're going to go even more in depth. Let's look at furniture. So normally simple plans, just those 2. Going to look at furniture. Kitchen, really important. And then we've got bathroom. So they're probably the only 2 you'll use. In kitchen, I would only use the basic range. So if I come back out again to in kitchen, as you can see, it's got everything from coasters to coffee machines, absolutely everything. But we're just going to stick with the basic units and just pick perhaps a simple cooker. So just drag and drop, and then it opens it back up. You might maybe want to put some cabinets in, whatever you feel is suitable, as much or as little in depth as you want. And as you can see, they're all really easy just to move around and function. So let's create, just move them around. There we go. And maybe let's pop a sink in. So again, just drag and drop, and we'll put the sink under the window. So that's created a really basic element of a kitchen for you. So if we come back out into objects, we go down to toilets. You've got really simple toilet and sink. So again, if you're keeping it simple, I would really just keep it with these two items. Some toilets, and then let's maybe put a bathtub in. Again, you've got pretty much every brand of bath under the sun. So all the objects in the furniture are purchasable objects. So they're John Lewis ranges, they're IKEA ranges. So where the system is really, really complex is essentially you can do complete accurate 3D modeling with the exact furniture and the exact kitchen, bathrooms that a property has, but we don't need that level of detail. So just showing you where things are to give you a really basic way of creating that plan. So if we feel comfortable that that's roughly how we feel the house might be, you do have the option to put in beds, sofas to show the size of a space. Personally, for selling properties, I never put furniture in. When I worked in holiday lettings, I always put furniture in. So maybe if you're selling a gîte, you might want to put in a double bed because people like to see whether it's got a double bed in, whether it's a single bed. So you might decide to use furniture if it's appropriate for the property. So here we are with our finished plan essentially. So let's come out of that and let's take a look at it. So pretty happy with that. This is what it looks like when it's in color. So you can either have all the objects in color, the rooms in color, just the rooms in color, or just in black and white. As mentioned, I prefer black and white because it's easier for people to read on their phones. What then gets quite exciting is if you do choose to go 3D. So this is where the plan becomes a little bit more expensive when you're exporting it. It isn't a cost, it's credits that we already have, and we have quite a lot of credits, but choose whether you want to use them or not. This at the minute is completely free. If you click into 3D, so click of a button, it then basically creates a 3D rendering for you, and you're able to just move around the space. And it just gives sellers a bit of a wow factor. What I would probably do is have a portfolio. So if maybe you have 1 or 2 3D projects that you've worked on, you can scroll in and out so you can zoom in, look at the different angles. Maybe create a folder of examples of your 3D work if you have a couple you're really happy with, a couple of examples of your 2D, and then you can take it to different mandating appointments or when you're doing your sales pitch to a seller, and you can show in your portfolio of photography, floor plans, whatever it might be, the different things that you can do. So with one click of a button, it creates 3D image. That's where you do need to be more careful with staircase positioning, window type, door type. So it becomes a lot more work at that stage. So to keep it simple, I would go as far as this. But if you really want to wow someone, or if you maybe have a property that's been on the market a long time, you feel like the vendor might be getting swayed to go mandate sampler, or you've got another agent who's preying on them a little bit, now might be the time to say, look, I'm going to do a 3D for you. And it just gives you an extra tool up your sleeve if you need it. So the next most important thing is, how do we export the image? There's 2 ways. Big export button up here. Always do it in standard. So do it in low res. It doesn't need to be high res, 2D, JPEG or PNG. Or you can download it as a PDF. So if you want to attach it to an email, and then you can simply export it. It will sit in your Floorplanner account, and it will also get emailed to your Leggett account. So if you've got it on email, you can then forward it straight off to clients. You've got the option to change landscape or portrait ratio, whole project if you've got more than one floor. So if you want all your floors on one diagram, you click whole project, and then it will open up the option to do more than one image on a sheet. And then you can see it says mail to. So that's how you export. Another really good way of exporting, and this is why it's so helpful, we've got a Leggett account. When you're in your dashboard, you can click on any of the thumbnails that you've got, and it will bring up these options. You can edit the name at any point, edit the branding. You can look at whether it's been exported, and then most importantly, you can share. So on the share button, if you click access for all, it then creates a URL. That means you can view it in a browser. So you can just send this link to a client. They can't edit it, so I'm just going to pop it in there. And it essentially opens up a version that they can then see. So you can send just the URL on its own. If you don't want to send the PDF, it will open up like this. But more importantly, with that URL, you can then go into Hestia. So under media, where you might have photographs, under media, where you might load YouTube, etc., create media, and then you've got Floorplanner, and then you can simply add the URL here, click enable, and then it will load it directly onto your marketing. And what's quite a nice feature is that if you then edit the plan in Floorplanner, it will auto feed through to your marketing. So you're not having to upload fresh exports or fresh copies. So that's Floorplanner in a nutshell, essentially. I will take you back to my presentation so you can see step by step how I've written it. And then if you have any questions at the end troubleshooting, then hopefully I can help you. So if we go back to the beginning, let me just pop that on the presentation. Can everyone see my presentation again? Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. So make sure plan is in black and white, 2D, working in meters, not feet. We have it in French as well for people. So setting the dimensions. So we're going to toggle off the dimensions, so it's less confusing. So you have that there, and then your page will be ready to draw. So what you want to do is click on the toolbar and then click Draw Room. This then allows you to open a room, essentially. So you can draw your room. Make sure you can change your walls, move them up and down. If you want to place doors, go to place doors. So I've got literally a step-by-step how to open up the features of the walls, so you can change the direction of the doors, adding the finishing touches, so under dimensions, placing a label, how to do those things, how to change the dimensions so we're comfortable with it, and then that's your basic room shape. And then adding the room, additional rooms bit by bit, building the relationships, building the hallway in the negative space in the middle. And then we have adding floors. So if you do have more than one floor, I'll come back out and show you in Floorplanner, you can create a new floor. So I'll show you how to do that in a moment. Don't export until you're happy and you're ready. So if it's one level, you can just export to your heart's content. Otherwise, it is 2 credits. And then here's how to export it and use the URL. So adding it into Hestia. So if we go back to Floorplanner, what we can see here up in the left-hand corner is automatically called it first floor because it's an American software. So we would say ground floor. So you can click on the cog at any point. You can change the name. Let's try changing the name. So that should now be ground floor. You can then click add a new floor if you want to. You can call it then however many, attic space, whatever it might be. But also you have the option with the ground floor. If you want to duplicate it, you can click duplicate. It will create a first floor in exactly the same image. So if you do have the same footprint all the way up the building, perhaps create the basic outline, duplicate it however many times, and then go back into each floor and add the detail. So if I had duplicated this, for instance, and this second floor is purely bathrooms, bedrooms, I would simply delete the features and then move anything that's necessary. So if I duplicated this, and this perhaps was a sort of a larger space. We can then create a larger bedroom, whatever it might be. You can start moving walls around on each floor. So in a nutshell, that's how to, in a whirlwind tour, how to create a floor plan. So I will stop sharing with you now. Has anyone got any questions at all off the back of that? I can see someone perhaps has asked a question. There we go. So yeah, Heather, we can do. Sorry, I'm just going to read the questions. Do single story. So basically, we have a huge amount of credits. We've got thousands and thousands of credits, and to do complex plan is only 2 credits. So we're not credit short in any stretch of the imagination. However, if you want to do them free or you're working off a personal system, you can simply draw floor by floor next to each other on the same piece of graph paper. So sometimes if people weren't comfortable doing the different levels, you can actually just do them next to each other. So there's loads of ways around it. But no, don't worry about credits. There's lots of them, so it's fine. And they do get renewed. So we have had constant stream of credits on a business account, so that's not a problem. It's just to make you sort of aware that single ones are free, so you can just tailor them, edit them, export them, and then just be a little bit more careful with multiple floors. But again, don't be concerned in terms of the credits. Has anyone got any other questions at all or troubleshootings or? So when you export it, there should be the disclaimer on it. Let me just check on some of my exports. It's tiny, the disclaimer. If I just share my screen again, it's down here in like micro. I don't even know if I can zoom in close enough. Down here, it does essentially say that it's for reference purposes only. It's not an architect's plan. Don't order your furniture off it or your kitchen unit. It's essentially a marketing representation of the floor. We can get it pretty accurate. We can get it down to the millimeter, but we do have the disclaimer on there so people can't order carpet and get it wrong, which has happened, not to me in the past, but it has happened to colleagues at agencies in the past. So don't worry about that. The old logo, yes, that's true. We'll get that updated. Have we got any other questions at all that I can help with? The credits, sorry, Trina, the credits are already on the system. That's why with the Leggett login and using the business account, they're already in the background and you're able to use them. So you don't need to do anything. They're already there for you. And you haven't had your login. Okay, I will follow up and check with Loic as to where that is. It won't tell you, it shouldn't say you've got any credits, Trina. It probably just is in the background. The only person that will know how many credits there will be an admin or I think maybe Ludo. So I'll double check, but you should all have access to the pool set of credits essentially. But I'll find out whether they should be displayed on each profile. But I think it should be mostly admin that keep an eye on the credit level.
Just a question about changing the size of windows and doors. Presumably
yes.
That's quite easy. Yeah.
It is. So windows and doors, changing the size of those, it is simply when you click on it. In fact, I will share my screen and show you because that will be much simpler. Let's go back into my floor planner. So I am sharing again. Let's come. How do I get back out of that? There we go. So let's go into one of my plans. Let's go back into this one, for instance. So absolutely every feature, every bit of furniture, everything is changeable in size. So you just click on it, you bring up the tools, and then every time there's a dot is movable. So you can just move things, make them larger, smaller. Same with doorways. If you just click, anytime there's a blue dot, it's something that can be picked up and moved. And what's quite nice is if you have something that is central, it will automatically give you the dimensions on either side of the object as well. So if you've really gone into a lot of detail when measuring and you've taken wall measurements on either side or gaps between windows, it gives you the ability to make sure you're positioning. So you just click on it when these other features are there, and then you can just change the size of different things. And again, with beds features, again, you can just click on the scale. You can make them smaller, bigger, but they will be to scale of double beds or whatever they might be. So everything is editable, basically.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions at all that I can help with? I know it's a bit of a whirlwind visit for the software, but I hope just by demonstrating how it's just opening boxes, it's shown you how easy it is to create these floor plans. Takes a little bit of practice. So as I mentioned, the best thing to do is I will share my user manual. I'll pop it in this group chat, and Kevin, if you need to send it out to people as well, that's absolutely fine. Look at the video again if you need it. I'm here. I'm here if you have any specific questions. And then the best thing to do is maybe measure up your own house and have a go doing that. And then you'll feel confident when it comes to hand planning. Because the biggest part of the job is doing the hand sketch and getting the measurements in. Doing actually on the software is pretty simple once you're comfortable. No, you can't, unfortunately. It's very much a drawing tool. So you can't automatically just say, I want a room 5 by 5, because it won't be able to position it. And then you'll say, maybe I want another room 4 by 3, and it won't know where to put it. So the software very much is a drawing function. So we're not anywhere near as complicated as CAD or an architectural program. But this software does create it's interior design to scale 3D modeling. So unfortunately, it doesn't tend to accept auto dimensions. It does need to be drawn. So unfortunately, no. So Trina, yep, I will go through again quickly the URL link. Let me just share my screen with you one more time. So when you are in your dashboard, oh, where's it gone? There we go. So clicking on my dashboard. Oh, there we go. So on the thumbnail, there we go. On a thumbnail, you just click on whichever project, and then you've got share. So all the settings are here. Click share. Then you click open access, so you can make it private. Open access, and then it's this top link. So it says viewer, so it means the viewer can't edit it. And you just simply copy the link, and then you can copy it into Hestia, or you can just copy it and send it to a client, and they can just input it into Google, and it will bring up a copy of that essentially. So it's a really nice way of being able to send floor plans without downloading PDFs and JPEGs and things like that.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Anyone else? Any other questions?
No.
No.
Cool.
I think, I mean, it's an incredibly powerful thing. I know kind of your immediate reaction is going, oh God, more work, and yet more stuff to gather information about a house. But I think you'll get quicker at it the more you do it.
Honestly, it's so quick. That's why I wanted to sort of just really sort of say, you're already measuring rooms for the square meterage. You're already taking photographs. It takes 2 seconds to just draw a rectangle on a piece of paper as you walk room by room. You're adding virtually no time to your listing. And then we saw how quickly we did that. It's been an hour's presentation. I probably drew that in 10 minutes. So once you're comfortable with where everything is, honestly, it doesn't add a lot of time, but can make a huge difference to winning mandates. And properties with floor plans sell 50% quicker. People can see it, they'll view it, you'll get it sold quicker as well. It's such a great tool. And also, I like to redesign my house a lot on it as well.
But I think that's the key thing, because I mean, what everyone is short of is time. And if you can cut down some of your wasted viewings, showing people houses that are completely unsuitable by giving them a floor plan, then it's just, it saves you time, and like Liane says, money on the bloody petrol as well at the moment.
Absolutely. And it gives you that professionalism, the efficiency. You can have that confident conversation with the seller that you're really targeting buyers that are really specific for the property. They don't want to tidy the house, or open the shutters every time someone comes over. So it just is honing everything. And your time is money at the end of the day. We want you to win the mandates when you go to the appointments, and we want you to sell. And it's just another tiny tool that will help you do that. So I
think that's quite a crucial point as well, actually. I think that's one of the things that the vendors get most upset about, is people being brought round to the house who are kind of unsuitable for that property, and they've gone to all the effort of tidying the place up. So if you can say to the vendor, we are only going to bring people around who've seen your floor plan, so they know the house is suitable for them, that will make them happy. And if you can combine it with a walkthrough video and a 360, and you can start doing virtual viewings, then you don't even need to visit the house. You get the query through from the client, you ring them up, you do a virtual viewing, you've seen the house before they've even left the UK or left Liane or whatever.
Exactly.
They're happy, the vendor's happy. It means you've shown the house before they've had a chance to view it with other agencies. And also the vendor's happy about reducing the kind of unnecessary viewings,
Yeah, unnecessary footfall and sort of off the back of COVID, so many buyers are now used to purchasing in this way. People have purchased without physical viewings at all. And it's really a way I think the industry is probably going to go. And buyers expect to have a lot of information now. So when I started 20 years ago doing viewings, it was like just get anyone through the door because we look busy, we look proactive as agents. And you know, when you're an agent and you're salaried sat at a desk, it's great just going out for the day. But the whole industry's changed. Buyers expect everything at their fingertips. They want to know as much information as possible before they even book a viewing. So it's just what people expect now. But on the plus side, it means less hassle for sellers. It means more likely that the viewings you do are more likely to convert into sales because they've already whittled you down to, you know, to actually coming in person. So I think more information is a great thing for potential buyers and for sellers. So
Good.
it's
Marvellous. Thank
exciting.
you, Liane. Yeah.
You're welcome. Much fun. If
Anyone's
any
got any more questions about it, then get in touch with me or Liane. Or,
yeah, absolutely. And we will be doing floor plan training as obligatory training soon. So if anyone's got any hours, we will be doing 7 hours and a lunch. I think it's €150 for a day's training. So similar to Cyril's training, where you can do photography. Can't even say it. Photography for a day. We'll be doing floor planning, but it means I can be with you, do the hand planning, work with you on the computer. You can bring plans with you to digitize. We can work on it. So if you do need any hours, I'm biased. I think it's a great fun session. If you don't fancy doing something else, so yeah, just let Kevin know and we can organise it.
Yeah, but just practice on your own house to start. Just
Definitely
get familiar with the tool and
put your
you'll be
furniture
away.
in. Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you very much for inviting me, Kevin. It's lovely
That's
to
right.
see
Thank you very
everyone.
much.
Any questions,
Goodbye.
do get
Thank
in
you.
touch. Thank
Okay.
you.
Good. I mean, Anne,
Thank
is Anne
you.
on the line still? Anne, are you still here?
I'm here. Yep.
How are your kind of clients reacting to it? Because you've done a couple, haven't you?
They love it. Yeah, but I'm a little OCD, so I go a bit crazy. So
You have, yeah. I've seen you started putting reference books on the libraries and stuff, haven't you?
yeah, but no, they love it. It's yeah, I like to be able to see that they can match up the room to the photo. So
Yeah, exactly. No, I don't think we can turn the floor plan into a virtual tour. Sadly, that would be a nice thing to be able to do, just to do it all once. But
Oh, we can do a walkthrough. I don't know if you looked on the
really?
3D. Yeah. Oh, sorry. This is the trouble. I go down a rabbit hole of floor planning and I get too excited by it all. So let me just share my screen really
You
quickly.
do like a virtual video walkthrough thing.
I don't know if you can record it. You can certainly do a demonstration walkthrough. Let me just share my screen. So am I back on? Can you all see my screen? There we
Yeah.
go. So if we flip into 3D, for instance, what's quite nice with the 3D is you can take, when you export it, you essentially take a photo of the image you're looking at. So that's quite nice. But if you do this little person, you can then go into the building as well and do, oh dear, I've walked into a wall. So it's possible to have a first person experience of the building. So I don't know, I wonder whether we can record that. I'll have a little look into it. What you can do is I think set outside. I mean, the software is so complex that you can even take a photograph, for instance, of the view out of that window, load it, daytime or nighttime, whatever it might be. So when someone stands at the virtual window, they've got the view of the actual view from the window. I can only show a certain amount in an hour, and we certainly go into more on the obligatory training, but you really can go incredibly in depth. So you can have every single image, the correct view out of the window essentially. And then you also have things like you're able to paint the walls. So if we pick a blue, for instance, you can choose which side of the window. So you can start, I know that I think, Kevin, did you do that that plan where it had the lime green walls, or was that one of your agents? That was brilliant.
I think that was Anne. Yeah.
That was fantastic.
mine.
I think you've like a missed career opportunity here as an interior designer. Like it was so good. But it's all these different things that make such a difference. And if so many agents won't be using this, and we've got it here and it's free. So I won't go too down the rabbit hole, but it is possible to have that 3D walk around. So I'm sure there must be a way of being able to film that. So I might look into that and see if that is an option. But I know otherwise it's I Spy, isn't it? And yes, we can put wallpaper on the ceiling. You can get that real French cottage, country house experience if you want. That's not a problem.
And what's do you know what the relationship is between this and kind of iSpy? Because we're still using iSpy. I mean, iSpy is a bit
iSpy's
more
Yeah,
different
iSpy
kind
is
of tool,
great.
isn't it?
I think obviously that's a paid application and the equipment costs a certain amount of money. I think really I wanted to roll this out. If there's people that didn't want to use iSpy, there's still really fantastic results you can get from this without having to buy the camera and things like that. So iSpy, of course, that's going to save you a huge amount of time. Virtuals, it does the floor plan and the 360s. But this, with a bit of time, you don't get too far off it if you don't have the equipment and things like that. So if you want a really quick, easy floor plan, you can just do this super succinctly. So it gives the agents a preference essentially on what tools they want to use.
Good-o. All right.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much,
Excellent.
everyone. Has anyone else got any other questions they want to ask Liane before she disappears forever? No?
Till I will see you next time for floor planning.
Okay, good. All right.
Brilliant. Thanks everyone.
Thanks,
Have a lovely
Anyone else got anything
Tuesday.
else?
Bye.
No? Okay, I'll do this video and I'll upload it onto the YouTube channel, and then you can have another look at it if you need to later on.
And I'll put the presentation in now as well for you.
Oh yeah, whatever. That's on email. Yeah, brilliant.
Excellent.
Okay.
All right. Thanks,
Thanks,
chaps.
everyone.
Bye bye.
All right, cheers.